Woo-bin was surprised to hear this and mentioned that he didn't think things could go that far. He added that Kim was clearly obsessed with Sunjin and that he should be on the lookout because, given her level of obsession, she might end up hurting someone. Sunjin stood up and assured him that he was aware of the situation and would do his best to protect both Minsu and himself. Woo-bin applauded him for finally standing up for what he loved. Sunjin looked at him and reminded him once again to stay 20 feet away from his sister before walking away. Woo-bin sat there alone, reflecting on how everything in his life was unfolding. He was back working for an organization he had vowed never to return to. He had just kissed a girl he considered his younger sister, and the woman he liked belonged to someone else. He thought about what Sunjin had told him, that he shouldn't run away from his fears or problems, but should instead face them. Taking out his cell phone, he dialed Minsu'S number, contemplating whether to call her. After hesitating for a moment, he decided against it and instead sent her a text, asking to meet up whenever she was free. Sunjin and Minsu arrived at the wedding planner's office, where she greeted them with a warm smile. Jokingly, she told Sunjin that it was good to see him for the second time, and they all laughed. Getting straight to the point, she asked when they were planning to have their wedding. Minsu, looking at Sunjin, mentioned that they were thinking of having it as soon as possible, maybe in 2 to 3 weeks. Sunjin nodded in agreement, adding that they needed to get it done quickly. The wedding planner looked at both of them and noted that 2 to 3 weeks was not too bad, since they would still have time to plan everything. She then asked what kind of wedding they wanted. Sunjin smiled, looked at Minsu, and stated that he was fine with whatever she was comfortable with. Minsu smiled and said she didn't want a large wedding, preferring an intimate ceremony with mostly family in attendance. The wedding planner interrupted, pointing out that Sunjin came from a well-connected family and asking whether his relatives would oppose a small wedding since they had many people to invite. Sunjin defended Minsu, assuring the wedding planner that he would talk to his family and that he also wanted something small rather than a grand event. As the planner noted their preferences, she asked about the wedding theme. Minsu stated that she had always embraced her Korean culture and wanted a traditional Korean wedding. Sunjin smiled, held her hand, and agreed that it was a great idea. He suggested having both a traditional and a white wedding. The planner wrote this down and praised Sunjin for being more involved this time compared to before. She also admired him for standing up for what he loved, glancing at Minsu as she spoke. That night, Kim arrived home and found her stepmother and stepsister sitting together in the living room. As she passed by without acknowledging them, they laughed. She proceeded to her room and began packing her belongings. Her father had told her to move out, claiming she had failed him and brought shame to the family. They had confiscated her credit cards and seized her accounts. As she packed, she couldn't stop thinking about the one person who had caused her life to unravel, Minsu. She vowed to make Minsu and everyone else who had ruined her life pay. As Kim continued packing, her stepsister walked in and stood watching her with a smirk. She mocked her, calling her the same failure she had been since childhood. Kim ignored her, but the stepsister persisted, taunting her for thinking that Sunjin would ever look her way and suggesting that someone as delusional as her should be locked away from society. Kim turned to her, tears threatening to fall, and told her to leave her alone. She pointed out that her stepsister had everything, her father's and mother's love, yet still chose to torment her despite having it all. With that, she picked up her bag and walked out, leaving her stepsister standing there.